My name is Serena Stucke.
My name is Tesene, and we're a Testu Collective. We first started back in 2018 working on video collaboration. It was like this seed that grew into a very amazing collaboration over the years.
Yeah, I would also say Testu comes from our last names. So his name is Tesene, mine is Stucke, so Testu, you get Testu.
Listening to the ether is a drum machine that is 3 rotating discs with patterns of magnets within each disc, and it can be listened to with a guitar pickup coil. All 3 of the people who can play it can hear the track. That's a collaboration of all 3 discs simultaneously. So we were using pigment grade steel. So this is like 5 microns, and it can self-organize into like really beautiful patterns. So the choreography on that was
Your hand?
my hand with a magnet, but the whole plate was also vibrating. So as the magnet is controlling the powder, the whole thing is shifting, and it's able to kind of spread and do like really interesting organic movements that it normally wouldn't be able to. It would normally just cluster and turn into like spiky objects and then kind of fall away. But with the cymatic effect also, it's able to like evolve a bit more. And the second part of it was a speaker cone, which is a different type of magnetic technology, but we were using lycopodium powder, which is moss spores, and those were self-assembling into like little nucleus and cellular structures, and they really form these organic patterns on the speaker cone as they're exposed to sine waves. Yeah, the piece was called Flux, and really that's about something propagating through something else. So there's all these invisible fields like Serena's talking about with the sound objects, and the visual as well. We're affecting things with invisible fields of force also.
And I think flux is a perfect word because, of course, it's like fluctuating force fields. Like, you know, electricity is never perfect, right? It's always being modulated, and it's always like this organic thing. And I think that's also what we love about it. It's sort of the total opposite of AI. It's like just it's perfectly imperfect, essentially. So we both have backgrounds in visual arts. He went to school for sculpture, and I went to school for video and photography. So I think we're totally influenced by our backgrounds. I also did a bit of like cinematography, so I feel like cinematography is very bound to sound. I've always been around electronic music and experimental sound artists, so it's sort of a natural pathway, but in my mind, in my world, they just kind of go hand in hand. Like the visual feeds into the sound and the sound feeds into the visual.
Yeah, I think coming from a sculptural background, I've always been very fascinated by like Dada artists who were like creating these sound boxes that would be like wound up and create noise, and that kind of influenced so much in the 20th century of like people who were creating these like sonic apparatus that kind of bridged engineering and the field of sculpture or installation.
Speaking of influence, I think after Dada, I would say another big influence is the sound artist, this pioneering German sound artist, Christina Kubisch, pioneered working with EMF. So it was actually through an accident. She was like setting up her sound installation with induction, and she started hearing all these like different frequencies. She realized, oh, these are like EMFs.
I think Serena was discovering or like utilizing electromagnetic field recorders, and those are like anti-radios. Like they can pick up electromagnetic fields from different sources like radio waves or the electronic signature coming off of like common electronic devices.
Yeah, I mean, I think I first bought a telephone pickup coil, which is you can easily get it for like $7. And I would say in the DIY experimental music scene, a lot of people use EMF pickups. And then I would also say started discovering them a lot during COVID. Like we would take walks through like Chinatown at night and just bring up like different EMF pickup coils with like headphones. And it's just a way to experience the city in such a way that you're not, you know, everything is chaos in New York. And then there's this like sort of organized chaos underneath it. And so like you're walking down the street and you hear like a rhythm of someone's car alarm or some pitter patters of an ATM machine or some neon lights. And it just completely changes how maybe you're like annoyed at NYC and then you like like listen in on the EMF sounds, you're like, this is a whole new perspective. I'll just give it like really simply, but there's an Arduino Uno, there's 3 DC motors, magnets, a variety of magnets, and that is an audio interface, a mini computer, and that is it.
I think that's all the components. Listening to the ether is essentially a electric guitar technology. So it uses electromagnetic induction to create sound. So basically we have a guitar pickup coil, which is a cylindrical magnet with copper windings. And when that comes into proximity of a moving piece of iron or a magnet, it creates a flow of electrons, which you can hear as audible sound. So essentially, instead of a guitar string moving at hundreds of oscillations per second, we have a rotating disk of magnets moving at between 40 and 120 rotations per second, or per minute. I think that the most amazing thing to experience with it is when you do get that pickup coil really close to that disk, you can feel the
force,
pull, the force between the magnets and the pickup, and that tactility is like really important, and I think that's really what people are drawn to, because you're drawing energy straight through the air and there's no contact between the actual magnets. And the gesture and playing with other people, it's all very organic, and I think people really feed off of that interactivity and interplay with other people. I think especially for this piece, we started out with literally a fan with a magnet taped to it. And that was like a performance object. And we really wanted to it was making really amazing sound, but we wanted to turn it into something that was aesthetically pleasing, safe to use, and like just a beautiful object that functioned really well. So that was kind of like this huge hurdle. In the beginning, when we started working on it, it was these 3 separate boxes, and we kept changing things out and manipulating things, and we would just tape the magnets onto the rotating discs. So it was like a huge research or hurdle just to overcome all of these obstacles with our collaborator Mike Romeo, who helped us program all the motor speeds and really built in the randomization of the...
And then just working with Arduino, getting if you ever hear people talk about working with motors, the biggest thing is wobble, to make sure things aren't wobbling. And that can be a total nightmare at times. We also took a workshop with this amazing artist, Andy Cavatorta, who did that big whale sculpture for Bjork. We went to a studio, and for 8 hours, we learned about motors. And that really helped us also with our project. And then also we have read many books on magnets, magnetism. But I definitely will say, I think physics and we just get excited about this stuff. And so I really do love research. And I think research is the most fun part about it. I mean, building it is fun too, but I think the research and the ideating and just ideas that excite us between science and art. And yeah, that's probably the most important part of our work, I would say. And continuing to do research, it doesn't just end here. We're still reading about magnets and other ways. I think that's also important too, is not to just end it after one project, which is ultimately what this Artifice show is about, right? That it's this might be version 2.0, but what will version 5.0 be? I think the biggest thing we've been exploring, as of now, is again these sort of invisible things around us and tactility. Not only bringing it to audible and visible, but especially particularly in the sound I try to create, whether it's my own music or an installation. I've said this to a few people recently, but I feel tactility and tangibility are sort of an act of resistance, especially in the sort of climate and era we live in, where everything is sort of AI driven, where we're living in software, we're living on our computers all the time. And so any sort of mix of software and hardware, or just things that I want people to feel the sound I'm making. And yeah, I think it's just, that's something we've been really striving for in the visual and in the sonic worlds that we're creating.
Several audience members came up to us after and said they were trying to figure out what software we were using in the performance to generate the visuals, and then they looked over and saw that it was all hand done. And I think that live performance aspect, where nothing is pre-recorded and everything is unfolding in front of you, is really as Serena said, an act of resistance against AI and completely computer-driven technology.